Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing? Good afternoon. Hope you're having a good day. Today, we're gonna be talking about the next game in the Castlevania series. I did cover the first game back in October, and even though that video bombed so astronomically bad that it made Cutthroat Island look like Avengers Endgame, I'm still going to talk about the sequel because I think it's an interesting talking point. There's a lot of things in that game that are worth covering, and why I don't think it's that bad. If you want to watch the original game review, I'll drop a link right here in the top right. Um, you can check it out because it took quite a bit of effort to make that one. And with that said, we're going to move on to Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. Now, this one kind of took a different approach comparatively to the first one and the third one. In fact, that was kind of a theme with sequels to NES originals, like, Zelda 2 and then Mario 2 came out. You get the idea. And while this game has kind of become infamous, it's been shit on a lot, like it's a fresh toilet bowl, it's actually not that bad. So, the key thing in this game is that it's non-linear, so you'll walk around towns, you'll go to these mansions, and of course, why are you doing this? Well, apparently you gotta go into these mansions here and collect Dracula's body parts, because apparently he put a curse on you or something, which is kind of weird because the third game was called Dracula's Curse, so I don't know, kind of a title mix up there, it's whatever. But you go into the mansions and you throw an oak stake at this orb here, and then you collect his parts, which I think give you special abilities, although albeit not super useful except for this one that gives you a shield. The main upgrades you're going to get are mainly bought with hearts. No, scratch that. Just about every single upgrade you get, anything you want in this game isn't just found somewhere like in most Metroidvanias. Instead, you gotta buy it with hearts. So, yeah, most of this game actually is grinding, and I mean grinding a whole lot. These items aren't cheap, especially these whip upgrades, which are like extremely useful. You're gonna need these later because like there are some enemies that can take like 4 to like 7 hits unless you buy that whip upgrade. But also, you will get these sub-weapons here, and they are ranging from pretty useful to like very useful, and then like at the bottom there's like just junk stuff like this dagger here, which I didn't even buy in this run, but just believe me, it's not very useful. I guess we're sticking with the theme here that the dagger sucks. So while you're grinding these enemies, you're going to want to watch out. You don't want to go too far away from a town here, because if you die on the way back, you lose all of those hearts that you collected. And I'm going to get to that in more depth later, but it is honestly probably one of the worst flaws about this game. That said, while you are doing all that, this game has a very incredible soundtrack, so it makes the grind not as tedious because the music is just amazing. And even though this game is kind of infamous now, the music is looked upon to be one of the best soundtracks on the NES. So once you're done grinding and getting all those cool whip upgrades and sub-weapons and shit, you actually have to progress. Whoa, look, what the fuck? That's insane. You gotta actually progress in this game. You're not just whipping a skeleton for the next 5 hours of your life. And it isn't as simple as just run from point A to point B, from town to mansion. There are obstacles along the way where you might get stuck, or there's like branching paths which can either lead to another town or another point where you cannot progress and need an item, or it can be a mansion, which is great news. But this does lead me to one of the biggest complaints, probably the biggest complaint about this game, and that is how cryptic it is. Basically, there are points in the game, like I said, where you just get stuck. There's no way to go forward, like this pile of water here, just a big lake blocking your way. And it usually revolves around these crystals. Of course, you have to buy them. You just can't pick it up somewhere. Instead, you gotta fucking buy it, because you gotta buy every upgrade in this game. But of course, you know, after that, at least they give you a break, and you can just trade them in for a better one. But the crystals do different things. Like this white one here reveals invisible platforms in the first mansion. The blue one is where you solve that lake paradox, where you can just kind of crouch next to it for a couple seconds, and then it, boom, magically lowers the screen, and this isn't even logically possible, but who cares, maybe it's just cardboard water. And then probably the most infamous one here is using a red crystal here to crouch beside a wall for like 10 seconds, which is just fucking insane. I don't really understand it. Of course, the dialogue in this game was not translated well, so they'll usually just tell you random shit that isn't useful at all. Sure, if you've seen the AVGN video, which a lot of people have, then you'll already know this ahead of time, but like, I can't imagine playing this back in like 1988 or whenever the fuck this came out. I mean, like, I would just be stuck. There are also other examples of the game just being cryptic, although I think these are optional, where, for example, you can put down garlic, and an old motherfucker appears. It must be Wario in his elderly years, maybe he's in retirement, and he just hangs out behind a gravestone. He just devours it in front of you, and then he's like, oh, here, take this dagger, it was a shank I used in prison. So, once you get into the mansion, that's usually where level design usually becomes a little bit more focused. I don't really want to say that, because there are just random enemies and like paths that like take you nowhere. Speaking of which, the enemies are like repeated throughout the entire game. Each mansion usually has a skeleton, maybe a spear guy, and usually they just have more HP, which that's just fucking stupid, you know? Like, oh, I just gotta whip him one more time, boom. Look at that challenge. Man, I mean, I can feel my nutsack sweating here. I had to whip him one more time. Oh my god, it's insane. Oh, what's that? I fell down an invisible pit because I wasn't throwing holy water every second. And then you buy an oak stake, and then of course you gotta throw it at the orb, and you gotta do this 7 to 8 more times, I think. I don't remember how many body parts he has. It may be 6, actually. And then finally, you go into Dracula's place. He doesn't have any guards, just an empty, old-ass building that's been abandoned. And then you kill him with ease. You just throw fire at him, and boom, he's dead. There are actually other boss fights in the game, but they are fucking pathetic. Like, the Grim Reaper is like, he's like a shadow of his former self. You can actually walk past him, actually, comparatively to like the first one, where, I mean, if you didn't cheese him with holy water, then he'd fucking obliterate you. But in Castlevania 2, I mean, it's like in the last one, you fucking paralyzed him from the waist down. Now he's a goddamn vegetable. I mean, what the fuck happened? There's also Carmilla here, which literally all you gotta do is duck and then whip her when she decides to go in circles for some odd reason. Overall, that's probably one of the lamer aspects of this game, but you know what, despite that, I still do enjoy it, because, you know, there's just a lot of aspects that I like, you know, actually exploring. And I know a lot of people hate the day and night transition because you have to wait a couple of seconds for it to go away. The message pop up here, which has kind of become famous, or is it infamous? I'm not sure if people like the message or not, but I know there are people who find it annoying. But you know what? It is at least a pretty decent idea in concept, because like it makes enemies harder for the most part, but there's also a kind of a reward for it because they give you more hearts. But of course they had to kind of botch it a bit with the towns not being accessible at night, so you have to wait like 5 minutes for all that shit to reopen. But even though I kind of hate that part, I do think it gives the game a lot of character and atmosphere, which I consider it more of a positive than a negative. And then finally, there are the enemies themselves, which come in a lot more variety than even the first game. There's all sorts of shit like mummies, there's wolves, skeletons like to make a lot of appearances, but I already mentioned them. Medusa heads make a comeback, there's like these eyeballs, there's a whole different like assortment of enemies which are kind of cool. Some of them don't do a whole lot, but they are at least interesting to look at, and a different change of pace from whipping the same skeletons over and over again. And of course, there's the whole idea of just upgrading yourself, something that is just satisfying in a video game. It's very satisfying to upgrade your whip, or you can even level up your life bar by killing enough enemies. It's a fun thing to do in a game. And while I do think it is kind of disappointing that you have to grind a whole shit ton, it still is satisfying in the end when you do get that whip upgrade, because then you're way more powerful. Enemies that took way more hits are now dying in like 2 to 3. This kind of leads me to one of my biggest complaints, if not the biggest, is that you lose your hearts when you game over. So let's say you got 200 hearts. If you made your way to a mansion and beat that mansion, you're about to go spend it on a whip upgrade, and then you die by some bottomless pit or an enemy that fucking TKOs you. That is the most frustrating shit ever, and plus, it would have cut back on the grinding, so what was the point? They just wanted to extend game time, which is just... ugh, God, it is frustrating. I'm not gonna lie. But even though this game has flaws, even though it's cryptic, even though there's grinding, I still enjoy it a lot. It's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. Objectively, it's not good. And of course, it's definitely not even close to the other games in the series, but like, there's still a lot of things to like about it. And with that, I'm not gonna give it a horrible score. I'm gonna give it a decent score of 6.5. Yeah, I know, it's okay. It's a pretty alright game. Just give it a shot and you'll like it. I'm not gonna say it's even close to the first one, especially the third one. I can't wait to talk about the third one, by the way. But anyway, it's decent. You should check it out sometime. With that said, I'm gonna head out. I got stuff to do today, like sitting in bed doing nothing. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.